that water that nourishes you, that water, right, that gives life. And just as we would drop our buckets down into this heritage, into this tradition, and pull out, right, new insights, new principles, dynamic principles that will inherently allow us as Muslims to see our way forward, or to treat and create prescriptions for new matters that face us. This is the istinbat, and then the third level is the ijtihad, from jahada. Everyone here has heard of ijtihad, and everyone has heard that the doors of ijtihad are closed. My question is, whoever said that ijtihad had doors in the first place? Right? Where does that conception come from? Okay? Ijtihad, which is the derivation of rulings and positions and principles and law and guidance, comes from jahada, to expend effort. And the mujtahid scholar is the one who exhausts himself and spares no effort in trying to find a solution, a prescription for the matters that face not just the Muslims. Right? Didn't we say that we would expand the remit of the discourse of Islam to include the community that is around us? Because wallahi, if we use our hermeneutic principles, or our principles of textual interpretation that are inherent to Islam itself, I said on our terms and not in those of Gadamer, for example, we find that in the broader scope of things, many of our texts are not limited to Muslims alone. That includes the society around us. So, I think that is enough on that principle. The third is a crisis in our relationship with the other, which is a challenge to the aim and purpose of deen and the aim and purpose of development, as we've mentioned. Positive, organic, wholesome, and sustainable development, the imara. And Allah says in the Quran, right, هُوَ الَّذِي أَنْشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم فِيهَا. Right? This comes straight out of it. We've mined it. اقتبسنا. We've drawn it out, like borrowing a light from the Quran. He says He is the one that produced you from the earth and then made you responsible to develop it. Imara. And it's a challenge to those two aims and purposes. First, religion itself. Because if we have a crisis between us and the non-Muslim community, that means they don't understand us and they don't understand what Islam truly is. And that means that they don't have access to the teachings of Muhammad who came to them. He was sent for what? Right? What was Muhammad sent for? For what reason? Right? To smite their necks wherever they find them? Right? Was that why he was sent? That's not what Allah said in the Quran. Right? For what? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And we have not sent you except as a compassion to the universe, to the entire world. To the entire world. And we are the Ibadur Rahman. We are the slaves of the All-Merciful, الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا, who tread gently on the earth. Right? They don't leave behind a big or large carbon footprint. Isn't that what that verse means? Right? It could mean that, couldn't it? Right? But we're the slaves of the All-Merciful, God says. He uses His name, the All-Merciful. We proclaim to serve an All-Merciful God who said, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. And my compassion encompasses, embraces, absorbs everything. And that everything is myself, my family, my Muslim community, but my greater community is a thing. My neighbor is a thing. Right? And my environment is a thing. And I am a servant of the one whose compassion embraces everything. So then my compassion in my following of Muhammad should also embrace everything that I encounter. But this model of two constellations of higher order principles, okay, and these proactive priorities that we have for the days to come, these three priorities that we've established from the words of Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayyad, none of this works without ihsan. Right? What is ihsan? Right? What is ihsan? Y'all wouldn't do well in a Southern Baptist Church, right? We need some call and response going here, right? What is ihsan? What?
Excellence.
Excellence. Spiritual excellence. That you worship Allah as though you are seeing Him. None of this ethical purpose in sacred law works if you're not seeing Allah. If you're not present of heart with Allah, worshipping Him as though you see Him. Isn't that what ihsan is? Is it anything other than this? Worshipping as though you see Him? Right? That's level 1. That's where you're supposed to be at. Beholding Allah. And the though here, as though, is because you don't see Him with the eyes of your sight, your basar, but you do see Him with the eyes of your heart, your basira. Meaning that your heart feels tangibly, palpably, the presence of the Divine. As though you are witnessing and beholding the presence of God. And from this witnessing and beholding emanates your relationship with the world around you and the people that inhabit that world. This presence of heart with God gives fruits, right, to two principles, that of consciousness and that of conscientiousness. The first, the consciousness, is the awareness of God. You're being with God, and if you are with God and perceive His witness with you, that in reality, the root of the existence of everything that surrounds you is secondary to that of God. In fact, His existence, He is the source of existence. Ad-dat al-wajib al-wujud, the necessarily existent essence. Because His existence wells up from His own essence. Whereas the existence of everything that surrounds us is supplied from outside, and therefore it can be cut off. And that's why the existence of God is more profound and should be more tangible to you in your experience of reality than that of the world around you. And if this is the case, if you have this presence of heart with God, how can you ever feel alone? Right? How can you ever be alone in this world? And from this presence emanates the conscientiousness, a sensitivity to the needs of those around you. And that is the other side of ihsan, of spiritual excellence. That you are sensitive to the needs of others. That you take care to be good to another and to extend a helping hand to another. Consciousness and conscientiousness. Ihsan is the kernel that nourishes these two fruits. Consciousness is that you be awake to the divine presence, that your heart have presence with Allah in conscious awareness and wakefulness. And conscientiousness is when that state of presence of heart turns to a sensitivity to the needs and well-being of others, and you deal with people in a way that is caring for their rights and sensitive to their needs. And this expands beyond people to all forms of life and to the environment itself. Everything becomes the recipient of your spiritual excellence. This whole scenario, right? This whole system, right? This whole universe that we've mentioned, with all of its planets and all of its orbits and all of its constellations, is the responsibility of the stewardship with which every human being, male and female, Muslim or non-Muslim, has been made responsible for by their Creator. Now, I wanted to suggest that as we face these challenges, right, and we see these three priorities for the days ahead for this community, several courses of action. First, there needs to be a self-governing body for scholars in the West, in which they discuss amongst themselves what it means to live sacred law in a Western context. A governing body that negotiates positions on critical issues of culture and modernity in this context, as well as policies regarding the issuance of fatwa or legal opinion in a Western, European, or North American milieu. Second suggestion is that we need to, and I'm visiting the